Hello, and welcome to Historical Fiction with Kviatoslav. Currently, I am reviewing the 15 novels of Alfred Duggan in chronological order, not the order in which they were written, but the order in which they would have happened historically there. And I've reached the seventh novel, which is called Conscience of the King. Now, the previous novel, Little Emperors, which was actually the second novel written by Alfred Duggan, kind of demonstrated the downfall of Roman Britain, how it was a quick and unexpected downfall there. The next novel, which is set in the mid 5th century there, so starts around 451 AD there, and is basically shows the after the Roman Empire has fallen in Britain, and it manages to be a completely different take on the same locale there. It's actually told in first person by Cerdic or Cerdic, who was the first king of Wessex. And many Duggan fans consider this to be one of his best novels, and I would have to concur. If I ever make a list of the novels, this one will definitely be near the top, if not the top there. Um, Duggan does a really excellent job of kind of contrasting the hangover from the Romans to the vigorous kind of barbarism of the invading German Saxons there. It has characters like Count Ambrosius and Arthur, who's a cavalry merchant for the Romans, not a king there, and they're unable to stop the onslaught of the invading Germans. It has very helpfully a nice little glossary here of the terms which were used and their modern kind of equivalents there, which I found very helpful when reading and trying to place the locales of the novel there. So, despite having like those famous historical personages in there, the novel is really about Cerdic there. So. Alfred Duggan, he really excels when he writes about obscure characters, and you really don't get much more obscure than Cerdic there. He's so unknown that some scholars actually question his existence. However, I think that's kind of more from a kind of Anglo-Saxon nationalistic streak there, because they don't like the idea that a bloke with a clearly Celtic name was the founder of basically the entire English aristocracy. So if the genealogy charts are correct, this guy was the ancestor of all subsequent English monarchs there, who was actually a Celt. And Duggan really explains his kind of mixed origin very cleverly there. Um, a general theme in all of Alfred Duggan's novels is that history is written by the worst kind of people. Those who are often successful do so through what we in modern times would consider a flawed character. And no one has a worse character than Cerdic. The title of the book, Conscience of the King, is absolutely perfect because Cerdic has no conscience whatsoever. It's really rare to find a narrator so utterly lacking in scruple. He's both like repulsive and fascinating in his single-minded pursuit of his goal to gain the throne of Wessex there. He can really rationalize the worst crime, and it's a study in corrupt character. Duggan really writes these characters. I'll give you just an example. Here are some of the title chapters there. So they've got campaigning with Count Ambrosius. My brother meets with misfortune. Exile in Kent. Founding of Sussex, my father meets with misfortune. Founding of Wessex, my wife meets with misfortune. He can really rationalize, every single, heinous crime in pursuit of his goal. But as I said, it really makes him a very fascinating and realistic character. It's told in the first person there, which Duggan often used the first person as well as the third person, and was written originally in 1951. And it really is an absolute cracking read. If I recommend anyone to read kind of the quintessential Alfred Duggan novel, this one is definitely one of the best ones there. It's just, especially particularly if you like Anglo-Saxon history, it does a really good job of, I don't want to say poking holes in the myth, but really kind of bringing home the absolute chaos and the flawed character who becomes successful because of his absolute lack of scruple there. So overall, Conscience of the King, strong recommend, like all Alfred Duggan novels, but definitely one of the best. An overall cracking read. Thanks for watching.